Hey guys, I want to take this time, I want to talk about Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Uh, just to be clear, as you probably can tell from the title, I'm going to be critical of it. Doesn't mean I don't like Mandalorian. Trust me, I've got projects underway. I'm doing the costume, I'm doing the rifle, got the child over there. I love the series. It's Star Wars done right. It's one of the ways you can do Star Wars right. Star Wars has always been a combination of a few old genres that they kind of put together. World War II movies, samurai films, and westerns. Mandalorian leans heavily into the western, while, say, the mainline movies lean heavily into World War II. Both are great. Love the way they did both. I've got plenty of issues with particularly the prequels and the sequels. But honestly, even the original series, I've got issues with the way they did those too. And it shouldn't be any surprise that when it comes to writing, I have an opinion on the mistakes they made in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Now, to be specific, at least one of the mistakes I want to talk about here was not so much a mistake. They broke the rules of writing, but they were right to do so. However, that doesn't mean you can get away with the same thing. And since this channel has a lot of stuff more focused on writing, I want to talk about why you shouldn't do what they did. Now, one of the first things that gets criticized really heavily about Season 2 of The Mandalorian is actually when they are talking in Episode 2, I think it was, maybe 3, when Grogu, the child, eats the eggs. I've seen arguments on both sides that were freaking lunacy. Like some people equating it to genocide. At most, I think you're talking about ending a family line. That's not genocide. Still pretty bad, but it's not genocide. And then some people equating the eggs to like chicken's eggs. It's like, time out. That's not how this works. We're talking about a sentient species. It's not chicken eggs. It's a big deal. That said, when I was sitting there watching that episode with someone else, and this other person, she loves Grogu. She loved the Mandalorian. She loved the child specifically. Yet both of us, even though my interest was Mandalorian, I liked Mando's character better. Both of us had the exact same reaction. When he ate the first egg, we both kind of groaned like, "Oh God, come on, no, don't do that." But we understood the point that was being made, that it was a callback to the first season. When he ate the second egg, we both got kind of pissed off. Like, what the hell? Come on, you've been corrected once already. And then at the end when he ate the third egg, we were both almost done with the character. We were almost like, forget it, we're finished. Now, the rest of the season recovered the character. The rest of the season did not lean into that so much, so we were like, okay, fine, we can deal with this. But that still is a black mark on the character and our memories of the character. And it's something to think about. When you've got a character who's really popular and he's got this quirk, it's tempting to lean into the quirk because it got good reactions the first time. But you can overdo it. You can push that quirk to the point where the character just, nobody wants to deal with that anymore. And the character loses interest. And I think they came really close. If they had continued the season leaning into those sorts of quirks for Grogu, I think the character would have lost a lot of the image, a lot of the shine that it had built up in the first season. And to be clear, one of the reasons is that in the first season, the child was nothing more than a MacGuffin. It was just there to serve the plot. It wasn't really a character. Despite the fact that it had those quirks that kind of gave it character-ish aspects, it was mostly a MacGuffin. In Season 2, Grogu became a bit more of a character. He became an actual youth. Another one of the issues I have with Season 2 is that I lost track of how old the child was supposed to be. And that's not a good thing. If you're doing that in your writing, your reader should have an understanding of the basics of the characters. I don't mean they should understand every little nuance and detail, but if you've got a child character, they shouldn't be asking themselves, is this 5 years old or 12? Because that was the range that I was seeing in Season 2 for Grogu, between like barely out of the toddler era to preteen. Like, I mean, you don't send a 5-year-old in to try and fix your machinery, but you might do it for a 12-year-old if it's close enough and you can point things out and so forth, which actually happened in a later episode. So that was one of the things that bugged me. But the example that I really wanted to go to for things that you should not do yourself is the season finale. Okay, major spoilers here. I'm going to talk about the season finale. This show has been out for a while. If you haven't seen it and you're going to see it, please, by all means, stop the video, go watch the season finale, if you've somehow not already been spoiled. The problem with the season finale, the big problem, is that they broke a major rule of writing when you're writing an adventure story. And that is, you don't use a Deus Ex Machina to save your characters in the climax. You can do it at any point in the middle of the story, no problem. If you got to use that Deus Ex Machina, that invincible character from wherever, in the middle of the story, yeah, because that can increase the tension going forward. Because they've already been in a situation where they need to be rescued, okay? And surely the author's not going to pull that in the climax, and yet they did it here. They brought in Luke freaking Skywalker to save them all right at the climax of the season, undercutting the accomplishments, undercutting the tension, basically relegating the main characters to secondary characters right at the most important part of the show. But it worked. It's something that they were able to pull off. How were they able to pull it off, and why should you not do this? They were able to pull it off because they leaned into 50 years of expectation, of interest, 50 years of building. Bringing in Luke Skywalker at that point created something that overrode the climax, that made it something that was more than the sum of its parts, more than it could have been without him. It worked for them. But don't break that rule lightly. This is a perfect example of know the rules of writing so you can know when to break them and when not to break them. Usually this is a point where you do not break them. They had a perfect storm that was set up for them in such that they could break the rules and get away with it, and it came out as an even better product in the end. Now, it doesn't mean they got away without a cost, however. More and more people are being exposed to Star Wars through the new stuff first. Okay? You might think that's wrong. That's not the way you should watch Star Wars. You should start with Episode 4 or Episode 1, depending on what your what sequence you think people should watch them in. But the reality is, there are new people who are being exposed to Star Wars for the first time through Mando and Grogu. For those people who have no understanding of who Luke Skywalker is, and right now, let's be clear, it's a minority. There's not that many of them. But going forward, there are going to be more and more of them, to the point where, depending on where Disney takes it, the majority of Star Wars fans may not really know much about Luke Skywalker, believe it or not. Maybe that's not where they're going to take it, because we're getting Rogue Squadron, so it could go a different direction. But there is the potential there for new people coming in to be sitting there like, who the hell is this guy, and why is he saving my heroes? Why is he saving the main characters at the climax of the show? You know, and they're going to be let down by that season finale. As things stand, I don't think that's going to be a significant number of people. But based off of what Disney did with the sequels, if they decide to go push more in that direction and creating new characters, it could happen. I'm of the impression, though, that they are definitely going to lean heavily into the older characters again and develop their post-Return of the Jedi stories either with new actors or as cameos, in which case that's going to be less of an issue. It's still something that they need to think about, and you definitely need to think about when you're doing your writing, when you're building your story. Don't rely on that Deus Ex Machina. No matter how much you love that character, unless you're certain that your readers are going to feel the same way as you do about it, it's not a good gamble to make. Anyway, that was my comments on Season 2 of Mandalorian, specifically the stuff that I didn't like. I could sit here and talk all night about the stuff I did. It's an awesome series. If you haven't watched it, seriously, go check it out. Particularly if you're a fan of Star Wars, if you're a fan of old westerns, if you're a fan of samurai movies, it really stands out for how it treats great, now I'm forgetting my words, huh? For how it treats the genres that inspired it. That's what I wanted to say. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to finish it now for the second time. Hope you guys are all doing well. Stay safe. Keep reading. Keep writing. And I'll see you guys later.